We're here with a new session because of all the ash cloud, etc., flying through the air. And this is about SharePoint 2010 and the cloud, Information Worker 113. I tend to wander around the stage a lot, and my little flicky over thing has, my doofer doesn't work, so but just bear with me going backwards and forwards. My name is Paul Turner. I work for HP as the Worldwide SharePoint Competency Lead for HP Software and Solutions. And I also have got some other qualifications other than SharePoint and MCSE, etc., etc. And they are ECM-S, which is AIM qualification. Ocean Master, so I can sail boats outside the 12-mile territorial limit, and also rescue powerboat. I am also, in our family, the downhill ski jump champion at 375 metres on the Wii Fit. My daughter is hating me at the moment. She keeps trying to get down there, but no way. So, what we're going to talk about is SharePoint in the cloud, how you can get it, what offerings are in there. We will touch on 2007, but it will mainly be 2010 version as we go through. I'd like to thank the guys who presented the first part of this session at the SharePoint conference in Vegas, because I have cut and pasted their presentation and then added our experience on at the end. So very much in the spirit of things, getting new sessions together. So it might not be as polished as somebody's been practicing for weeks, but we'll do our best. So why do it? Why not do it? And things to consider about putting your data online. We're not talking about this type of cloud. Obviously, this is what is the actual volcano erupting in Iceland. So go from there. Just a quick grounding on the types of offerings that you can do. If anybody has any questions, since it's a fairly small audience, stick your hand up and then we'll go from there. It seems a better way of going about asking questions. 3 ways of offering this service, SharePoint 2010. One is the classic on-premise. So you buy all your HP hardware, although I will allow Dell, IBM, Fujitsu, everybody else is in there. And you build it, you work out the sizing of the data that's going to be on there, and you actually run it. So that's the stuff sitting inside of your data center, and you have total control over what you do with that. Microsoft have been offering BPOS. BPOS stands for Business Productivity Online Services, which is Exchange, SharePoint, OCS, and something else that is available online. It's in 2 models. One is a shared service. So classic internet service provider, you pay Microsoft for a multi-tenanted hosted service that you use. It's around about £6 a day. Sorry, £6 a month per user, depending upon the prices that you go for. And it is really targeted at small and medium businesses, so companies of about 5 people. The one that we're really interested in is the dedicated, or the BPOS-D, which is dedicated hosting. When you sign up for the service, you get dedicated hardware that is yours. And you can put you can put information onto that, and Microsoft will run the service. Slightly more expensive, obviously, because they're actually dedicating all the equipment to your good selves. And it is hosted in a Microsoft data center somewhere across the world. If we're working in Europe, it's in Ireland and Amsterdam. So the main cloud data centers for Microsoft are in Ireland and Amsterdam. With the 2007 offering, I think I'll come to this a bit later, there are certain things that you can't do in it, and it is a matter of you talking to Microsoft or one of the BPOS suppliers, and I think there's 4 of them in the world, HP, Avanade, Fujitsu and somebody else. So it is a standard offering that all the organisations, all the companies I spoke about serve to the customers. I think there is a cartel going on because we can't charge more for that service and Microsoft can't charge less. So it's one price fits all, whether you go directly to Microsoft or go to one of the third parties. We'll come to why you might want to go to one of the third parties later on in there. With the SharePoint Online, it is all about your Active Directory, your access, so people will sign on with the same password and ID that they have when they log onto the PC. So it's seamless, you're not having to put in a different password as you go along. SharePoint Online, the standard one, you need a Windows Live ID to actually get onto it, and it will create one for you as you go along. So this is a standard one. You can go onto the website, and I've hit the American website, but never mind. $10 per user per month, and you can get a 30-day trial on that. Some of the features in the UK and Europe-based trial are not as there's not as many as in the US trial, so there's slight different functionality that isn't available in the UK side. So just go onto that site or the UK or your local country site, and you will be able to sign up for one of these. As you can see, 250 meg storage for the SharePoint side. So BPOS-D, what does it look like in physical boxes from 30,000 feet or 10,000 meters? Nothing like that. What it does is you put into the data center, the Microsoft data center, a copy of your Active Directory. So here, you actually purchase, when you set up BPOS-D, you purchase 4 AD servers that are sitting in the Microsoft data center, and you set up a trust, a one-way external trust between the two. So you're extending your internal system out into the managed data center, wherever that may be. Access to everything is all via HTTPS, so you get security across the firewalls, and you can get people coming in across from the internet or even on your local VPN or your local network. So when you buy one of these things, Microsoft actually give you, or yes, you buy it and Microsoft give you your Active Directory to go from there. Going more into the case studies that have been done for the TAP program. These are 2 customers that are working on the SharePoint Technology Adoption Program, where they get early versions of the code, and they have presented this at the SharePoint conference. So this is what they're using. This is the way they're going with 2010. I am the HP lead for the TAP program, technical lead for the TAP program. So we've had the code. Internally, we have been running SharePoint 2010 for about 8 months, and we've got about 20,000 sites on SharePoint 2010 at the moment, and we're just waiting for the RTM software to come out, and then we'll be having a migration phase to get everybody up to 2010. So Aviva, if that's how you pronounce it, some people pronounce it differently. They are a very large insurance group in the UK, 54,000 users. And what they're wanting to do with SharePoint Online is to do their collaboration and project coordination, so team sites. I assume that everybody here understands and knows what SharePoint actually does in features. So if I say to you a team site, then everybody understands that. Good. They also do personal sites, so my sites. And what they want to do is to build a knowledge network, social network inside on the capabilities of the SharePoint. So finding the right person at the right time, getting the right type of insurance claim clerk in the right place to talk about how are we going to deal with all the claims about lost flights because of the ash. And they also use it for business intelligence. So they want Excel services. They want to bring all the information in there. What does it look like when we go through? Looks like any fairly standard internet site, actually. There's a bit of skin that's been designed and put around the top. So you've got the branding on the top with the yellow and blue that goes all the way through. So that's just a customized style sheet that goes on there. This guy, I think his name is under here, has signed on, and this is the personalized site that he gets when he comes on. Obviously, like any good company, you have the share price on a ticker coming through, just to say how well you're doing. You get some world news, some indoctrination of HP, Microsoft, IBM, Aviva is great to work for, and everything else that goes from there. Down in this corner, got a little web part that you can put in your own information. You can select which countries or which towns you want the weather to view, and also the time. Yes, yeah, the time in that particular place. So personalisation to the person who has signed on with this. So it's dynamically built as you go along. Anything you would expect in an intranet website, basically, and you can bring whatever you want down onto that. They have done a bit of customization on the drop-down list on here, so that you can get each individual group's news if you want to go through from there. So it's a normal intranet site. It's just that it's running in the clouds. Another view of how you're going, and down at the bottom you have got particular feeds that are relevant to you down here. Some of them obviously aren't filled in, but this is, I can't remember what this page actually does. Oh, right, okay, yeah, so it's talking about how well we're doing with the global update, because this used to be Norwich Union and they changed brands. And then down here, information about what, these are the blogs and wikis, and you can actually have them in various different languages. So if you're working in France, then you can get it in French. Not quite the easiness that you would get the way you would expect to do it, because variations hasn't improved a lot in the 2010 version. There's still a bit of work to be doing on variations to get your different multi-languages going from there. But they have come round. They have got around those challenges, and we're working with Microsoft at the moment to get some changes into the next service pack or next version. As you see, they did a lot of customization. So the drop-down box that we saw at the beginning, they had an aggressive deployment schedule. They wanted to get this out before 2010 was launched. So they got 50,000 users or whatever who are now using this in a trial area. Challenges. Checkout. Because Microsoft in the BPOS D world don't give you a staging environment at this stage, then they had to do their own staging and checking and publication into the BPOS site. So they had to have some servers in there. And they found that if you check out while you're publishing, it had an impact on performance. That, I believe, has been solved, but there are various challenges that you need to think about when you're going through this. Variations, another one. Variation in the staging department going on to the production department. They also had problems with bulk loads and which network load balancer they were going to be using. So there was some, and I forget the word. There's some calculation that meant that it didn't quite work out to spread the loading across all the network load balancers. I believe that has been fixed as the changes go along, because all this was done in about November of last year, so we've got 6 months to go forward. Another one that's a fairly common, well-known company, Coca-Cola. They are on BPOS as well. They're using the publishing portal for communications. Once again, team sites, and they also have just started the social networking side. What they wanted is SAP data integration for the business development. So business intelligence, information coming from SAP, and I deliberately swapped from SAP to SAP, so I'm right for at least 50% of the time, depending which country I'm in. And they also have this concept of a deskless worker. So somebody who never goes into an office, just a deskless worker, so they can connect from anywhere. Yes, some technology quote from the Director of HR, just to say how great it is. They have got everybody, 73,000 users, all having access to this. Some of the users are actually, they don't even have PCs, they have kiosks in the factory, so they just go to the kiosks and look from there. So, all good news. What does it look like? Okay. It's a customised intranet site. Fairly simple design. If you notice the Aviva one, there was lots of information in the real estate. In the part of a lot of information in the screen that was being produced. This, they've cut it down quite a lot, and it looks simpler and supposedly easier to find information. There's a long discussion about what information you put onto the landing page. Do you want everything on there? And I know some companies that have a landing page that goes on forever and has got so much information on it that you just ignore it. And there's other companies that have 4 square boxes with my role, my organisation, my location, and my business unit. So there's various ways of doing this. As you see, there's some sort of slideshow image available here to keep people informed, and then there's the information about how great Coca-Cola are doing. Down at the bottom, polls and blogs are available there, and you can also my team site. So they've taken the feature of my sites and extended it into my team site. So anybody who works in the team will have that information available. Just more pretty pictures. A bit of branding going on here. They've just released some new Monster drinks that to get awareness into the employees, so that when they talk to their friends about, oh, we've just got this coming out. And here we're also looking at your career inside of Coca-Cola. So, new jobs, do you want to change your job? Video tour, view my payslip. They don't send any payslips out, it's all electronic. HR forms, policies, and yes, you can also edit edit the links that you see. So there is some personalisation in there. The sort of features you'd expect from a standard intranet, but it's all being hosted in the cloud. Yeah, okay. So we've done a bit of redaction, so you can't see where he lives and whatever. But this is the sort of information that they get to see with hierarchy of who's in there, taken straight from the Active Directory, which is an interesting point because some companies, and HP is one of these, the hierarchy in the Active Directory is generally not the people who you work with day to day. So the fact of social networking means that you can bring in your close contacts and present them as a hierarchy of people who you work with. So I'm going to point out Andy over there, who's my colleague from HP. I think we eventually report up to somebody at Mark Hurd level, even though we only live about 2 hours drive apart. But Andy and I are obviously working in the SharePoint world, so when we look at our social networking side, then it will show us as working together. So that's it. Yes, more pictures of what Coca-Cola do. I personally like the simple, not many items on the page, but that's my personal preference. Other people would just like more and more and more. So it's really down to your choice as you go from there. So this is the workspaces that they can build a team site all automatically. We do that in HP. You can just ask for a team site, and there's training videos in there, and you can view all your team sites as well. Allowing the users to create team sites on the fly means that you've got to have a really good understanding of the data they want to use, policies that they're going to be applying to, and because we're being hosted by Microsoft, you need to know what the retention policy is, how you're going to get rid of that team site, where you're going to put all the data. So thinking about it, it's a good exercise to go through, and I'll come back to it in a bit on that one. So I must stop saying so. I've been working too many times with one of my Canadian colleagues. Highlights to date. This was in November 2009. They've got a lot of customizations. You saw that. It doesn't look anything like a SharePoint site. They have retired 800 or so web applications. So they've taken it from, I believe, their Stellent system and put it onto the SharePoint side. The challenges that they had was they weren't really planning for the design and the production and going to production in the staging servers. So their testing methodology of working on SharePoint, when it came onto the production systems, some of the code didn't actually work. And I don't know if this is true with Coca-Cola, but it's one of the points that you need to think about when you're going into BPOS world is if you've got a different service pack on your SharePoint test systems to the one that Microsoft have got on their BPOS service, then there might be subtle differences between the two and your code might not work. That sounds fairly obvious, but we'll go into the reasons why you won't know what Microsoft have actually put on their service in a bit. So 2007, the one that's out there at the moment, you have standard supported features, and most of them are the ones that you really want to start off with. So the basics: collaboration, portal search, ECM. There are some. Yeah, okay. So they do allow SharePoint Designer to be put onto SharePoint Designer customization to be put onto there. That is a fairly good rule to put into your into your on-premise system as well. Don't allow anybody to do Visual Studio against your SharePoint sites. Some people don't even allow SharePoint Designer access to it. You've got to go through the web side. And it's all about setting your policies, setting your templates that you're going to be using. Yeah, okay. So what's not offered in the 2007 version? Inbound mail, anything to do with directories, single sign-on, variations, so you won't be able to get your different languages in there. Record Center, which was probably not recommended by Microsoft in 2007 anyway. I think they said it is okay for test and trial productions, but don't use it in anger. So these are the things that you can't do in 2007. Coming to 2010, the features and capabilities that they want to have are the features and capabilities that will be in SharePoint 2010. So whatever you can do on premise, eventually, and I say eventually, you should be able to get those features in the hosted environment. So there's no there's no difference between how you run it in the cloud and how you run it down on your data center. The main things that they're looking at is Office web apps. I believe there was a couple of sessions yesterday about web apps. So I'll just skip over that. Record Center, so records management, that is of the features that are available inside of SharePoint 2010 are actually there. If you are a organisation or company that needs certification against DoD 5015.2, TNA or whatever, this is not the thing to use. Microsoft are not pursuing any certifications for SharePoint 2010 in the records world. So the Record Center is fully functional. It does exactly what a Record Center should do. It stores, retains information for a set period of time, so we use it internally for our proposals, and after 2 years our proposals are deleted. They are actually deleted. So the challenges are there, and this is something you've got to think about when you're looking at hosting information, is if you've got your Record Center set to store information for 7 years, which most tax offices do, they've got to keep all your tax details for 7 years, you can't delete that document library until the time has passed. So that could be 7 years from now, it could be 14 years from now, depending upon how much stuff you put into there. So you need to be able to plan what your data volume is going to be on the cloud. It's the same code as you get on the CD. Microsoft have made a conscious decision that is what you get, and there won't be anything different. Out of the box, these are mainly here for you to have a look at later, but FAST will be included as the search engine as Microsoft Online, and you will be able to do anonymous access, so standard websites that are now done via other hosting systems. Takes advantage of the new scenarios, so sandbox solutions are available on there if you want them. They have also decreased the time for recovery and all the DR stuff, so it will be quicker to bring the information back. So return to operations, I can't remember what RPO stands for, but it means that you will have less downtime if anything happens. They're obviously improving all the metrics, all the reporting, and you will be able to get remote blob store eventually. And go from there. If you want to know what SharePoint 2010 features are, then this is the whole list of all the features split into pretty coloured boxes. So out of the box, if you're going on-premise, you will get all of this good stuff. The bits up here are in the blue, although it looks purple from here, or is it I've been drinking too much last night? These are the 2007 capabilities that are being added on, so you get interaction with SharePoint Designer, document management, enterprise publishing, and the like. At launch, they should be and this is launch of BPOS, not launch of SharePoint 2010, because there's a slight delay going behind setting up all the hardware to run this. At launch, you will be getting improved wikis and blogs, tagging, rating, notice board, tag clouds, and all the social side. Improved records repository, we talked about that. Metadata, the managed metadata that was talked about yesterday, I believe. And they're all going to be included. As time goes on, the red boxes will be coming online, so you'll be able to get project. If you're big into Microsoft Project running on SharePoint, then you can get project on there. Single sign-on, the claims authentication, and information rights management will actually be available on there. So at the moment, with 2010, it will just be the access is down to the document list, and that's the stuff that you get. When you get information rights, you can actually fine-grain the access to those documents. The last thing that's coming out is the geo-distributed design. I don't know if there was a talk on the geo-distributed design at this conference, but it is addressing one of the big problems of 2007 of having SharePoint sites all across the world. There's quite a lot of us who have circumvented this by having farms across the world, but this is the way of putting in enterprise services like search at the top farm and then bringing it down to the bottom side. So, why do you want to use BPOS-D? Obviously, we internally have 96 terabytes of data. We have 8 medium server farms sitting around just handling that amount of data with SharePoint. So if we take all of that all that data, put it into the cloud, we don't need all of that hardware there, for our data center usage comes down. Could be a big decision for some organizations. I'm working with one at the moment who are just replacing everything with the smallest blades. And I think they're IBM blades, but the smallest blades possible, because they have a finite amount of space that they can put into the data center. So they're looking at taking the information off onto the cloud. You leave Microsoft to worry about the service level agreements and the disaster recovery. You don't have to have dual SANs, if you're doing this, sitting in 2 data centers waiting for failover going into the other world. So less hardware. It's a defined service. Microsoft tell you what you're going to get, you sign up for it, and that's precisely what you get. It does also make the business think about the data. And coming from an information management background for the past 3 years, most organizations who run their SharePoint sites on-premise do not do any information architecture, any governance about what information stays there, how many copies of the information they've got on the SharePoint site. I was at another customer who had just come back from the SharePoint conference in Las Vegas, and they had 15.5 copies of the DVD on various SharePoint sites across their network. Instead of just having one, they've multiplied it by 15. So that's 15 gig of extra data that they didn't need. That's not a problem, really. It just means you're using up expensive storage. But if you're a police force, and this is not a UK police force, in fact it's not even a European police force, they have got some gun policies about firearms, and they presented onto their external website the wrong version of the rules. So when they tried to sue somebody for you're breaking the rules, who said, I'm following exactly the letter on the website, but it wasn't the right one. So that's where it gets into areas where money might be involved. Having 15.5 copies of the SharePoint conference is probably not a big one. So it makes the customer, it makes the IT department, makes the business owner think about the data, what data is going up there, because you've got to sign up for a set amount of money every day that you give to Microsoft. As we've seen, access from anywhere, and you also get evergreening, which is, one of my colleagues took this as to say it stays the same, whereas Microsoft mean by evergreening, it constantly changes to the latest version. So when you sign up for BPOS, and the guys who signed up for 2007 have got 6 months to upgrade their sites into SharePoint 2010 as they move from one service to the other. Microsoft will also put in service packs and everything else as you go along, so it will be the most stable system that you can get. And it sounds great that Microsoft keeps everything up to date and make you move as you go along. Gives you advantage to the new features, means that you're not taking the risk of actually doing the migration, doing the service pack upgrade on your own system. You also, if you're got an enterprise agreement, you get a discount against the cost of BPOS-D because you bought an enterprise agreement already. So they're encouraging people to go forward. So that's great. Is everybody willing to sign up now for a BPOS-D? No, there's certain limitations that you get. One is, it is a defined service, and you get what Microsoft offer. So if at this stage you want to do the geo-replication deployment that's going to be released in about a year's time, I don't know what the release dates are, so I'm just making a year's time up just for an example here, and you want it now, Microsoft won't offer it to you. The whole idea of cloud is that you pay for your usage. So if you get 20,000 users and then you suddenly have to make 10,000 redundant, then you should be able to drop the level down to 10,000 users. The way the license bands have been set up, it is not easy to decrease the amount of users that you have on BPOS-D. That's just from practical experience. There might be changes in the way the licenses is done for 2010 when it's officially announced, but it's a matter of you need to know your license bands and how many you're going to have. If you're a company going after acquisition, it's okay. If you're a company that is splitting up, like some of the big banks supposedly will be in the future because of the regulations, then it might not be the best way to go. The data centres are in Ireland and Amsterdam. Does your government, country, your policies and procedures allow you to have your data in a different country? If you're German, the answer is no. If you're a German company, all the data's got to be held in a German data centre. So there's not that they can't actually use this service. And as we said before, do you want all of your data to be actually in the cloud? I would like to suggest, and I have no experience of this organisation at all, I would like to suggest that probably MI6 or MI5 don't want any of their data in the cloud. They want to keep it in their secure little bunker as they go along. So there's other reasons why you wouldn't want the data in the cloud, apart from the fact that it's in a different country. As we said before, some applications features are not available. Some of the OCS telephone bits that the digital upgrades or voice over IP exchanges can't be hosted in the cloud, and some people have wanted that. And with publishing, you will need to have your own development dev dev, QA and staging servers to be able to put the information up to the cloud. So, things to consider. We talked about, I talked about evergreening. You will, if you're going to be putting in the dev and test environment, you will need to keep it up to date with the Microsoft fixes as they go along. You will also have there's clauses in the agreement that Microsoft will upgrade to Service Pack 1 at a set time, and you have to build your website around that. So if that comes at the same time as your financial results, then you might run into a bit of problem of not having the service available. The fact that Microsoft keep changing it, they will inform you. You've got to keep everything up to date on your own internal system. There is a deployment schedule, and you've got to understand this process and timeline. I think you have a 2-week window to accept a service pack. For a major release, it's 6 months. The timing I'm not sure about because they keep changing. But if it's a fix, emergency fix, hot fix, then it will just go straight on to the system. Yeah, so that's one thing to do. So, talking about the left to right development process, this is a fairly standard way that we set up SharePoint 2007 farms. So we have a development farm available to the users. The idea of sandbox solutions in 2010 means that this will be easier and you can probably put them onto a QA development, but for safety, you have a development farm, QA, where everything is tested, and then the users put information into the staging farm. So you will still own this, and SharePoint production will be in the cloud. So, just something to think about. This is something that we're doing with a customer, taking into account the fact that not all applications are going to be running in the cloud, in the BPOS cloud. Not all commercial off-the-shelf software are actually available in the BPOS cloud. What we're doing here is extending the BPOS cloud to have a secure services cloud. And in here, for this particular customer, we are putting in an application migration factory for their notes. And then we actually have set up another cloud for this customer based in our German and other data centers. So, very high-level overview of what we're doing with this particular customer is they have their own data center network in there, their own internal network. This is our secure services cloud that is actually split physically across the 3 regions, and then we have a link into the Microsoft data centers as well. This is under test at the moment. The customer hasn't gone live. Their notes migration is about 20,000 applications or something like that. This is a 5-year project, and they're trying to get everything into the cloud. And some things they can't, some things they still need to keep on the data center network. Yeah, I can just get through this one. If you're looking at putting custom solutions on BPOS, then there is a process for going through that, and this is very, very controlled by Microsoft. You must follow the form. First thing you do is you write a high-level design document for your application. How many of you have got every single design document for every single notes applications that you might be running on your data center? How many have got high-level documents for anything, every single system that's running on your computer system? I don't think anybody has. So there is a process you've got to go through. You've got to document all this. We've got to write it all down, what it does, submit it to the engineering, in this case before coding begins, because we'll be migrating to the SharePoint site. And it also gives an opportunity for Microsoft to give you feedback. The same with any off-the-shelf software, like we're going through this process with our TRIM records management product so that we can actually offer DoD compliance in the cloud. And we're looking at about a year for that process to go through. So it's a long time. Once you've done the high-level design, you then do the customization package, and this is what you have got to fill in. So it's getting to the part where you're really thinking about what you're doing and why you need this application onto there. And the fact of going through this means that some applications just never get anywhere, and they'll just die and they'll be replaced by something an out-of-the-box feature. And then the engineering review process comes back, and they test it for common attacks and deployment best practices and compatibility with whichever version you're running. So, evaluation timeline, 5 weeks. However, they have conveniently missed out 10 days here, so that's another 7 weeks. 7 weeks is the quickest you can get any application through onto the BPOS production. So that is a very, very quick overview. I'm sorry my voice is going. I think speaking too much and probably shouting at the drinks session last night has done my voice. But if you've got any questions, then I'm happy to take them. No questions. You're very quiet. Right, in that case, if there's no questions, then I believe... Sorry, there is one question.
Office web applications.
Sorry?
Office web applications.
Mm-hmm.
Is that different in a client environment or would be if you were hosting SharePoint on the premises or not? If we have Office clients locally, fact clients,
Yeah.
interacting with SharePoint, is that any different?
From the functionality point of view, I don't believe... Sorry, the question was, is there any difference between interacting Office web applications internally and externally on the cloud? I am not a world's expert on Office web applications. We can get you talking to the guy who's doing it. I believe there is no difference, but let's take that on hand. And since you've asked a question... It's a 1 gig USB stick with a little laser pointer. Also advertising our records management software as well, called TRIM. So it's there. So, if there's no more questions, thank you very much for your time. Thank you for actually getting up and attending the sessions after, if you were enjoying yourself last night. And I shall be around for the next hour. So if you want to catch up with me, then catch up with me. Otherwise, have a good rest of the conference. Thank you very much.